Welcome to Asia Outlook. I am Aga Cho and I'm here to report the top stories from around Asia. Music lovers in Thailand's capital, Bangkok, were treated to a first-of-its-kind experience with the Tuk Tuk Drive-In concert on 8th of August. It was the first major music festival since the COVID-19 lockdown was lifted. In order to comply with the strict social distancing regulations, concert-goers were picked up by a tuk-tuk and stayed in three-wheel taxis for the duration of the concert. Tuk-tuks have become symbolic of Bangkok for many tourists. The festival gave the colorful rickshaws a chance to act as concert seats. TikTok is reportedly preparing to sue the Trump administration, challenging the president's executive order banning its service from the U.S. The company will file the federal lawsuit as soon as Tuesday, according to the U.S. broadcaster NPR.
TikTok is reportedly preparing to sue the Trump administration, challenging the president's executive order banning its service from the U.S. U.S. National Public Radio reports the company will file the federal lawsuit as soon as Tuesday. Now, Twitter has expressed interest in acquiring the U.S. operations of the popular video sharing app. Reuters sources say Twitter has approached TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, and held talks about their potential combination. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a separate executive order barring transactions with Tencent, the owner of WeChat, starting in 45 days. The U.S. has been moving to purge what it calls untrusted Chinese apps and, quote, significant threats. Tencent says it's reviewing the executive order to get a full understanding.
Amid increasing uncertainties in world markets, China's foreign trade has beaten analysts' expectations in recent months. Total foreign trade volume rose by 6.5% year-on-year in July, with exports and imports up by 10.4% and 1.6% respectively.
我国外贸应该说交出的成绩单呢，它远远好于市场的预期，这反映出中国经济具有非常强大的韧性。习近平总书记明确指出，要优化营商环境。那么今年下半年呢，全国海关将继续落实像提前申报、两步申报这样的一些新的通关模式。同时，我们会把在抗疫当中我们新确立的像绿色通道、像零延时验放这样一些非常受到企业欢迎的做法坚持下去。我们要筑牢口岸检疫防线，严防疫情通过口岸输入。同时，要实现国内国际双循环相互促进，那么就要求我们要进一步优化口岸营商环境，要加快通关速度，要支持全面的复工复产，稳住外贸外资的基本盘，实现外贸的高质量发展。
U.S. customs authorities are set to announce measures that will see products imported from Hong Kong marked made in China after September 25th, according to a U.S. government notice. Hong Kong says the move ignores its status as a separate member of the World Trade Organization and violates international trade rules.
U.S. customs authorities are set to announce measures that will see products imported from Hong Kong marked as made in China. Hong Kong says the move ignores its status as a separate member of the World Trade Organization and violates international trade rules. It says it's considering actions under the WTO rules to protect its interests. The Trump administration has stripped Hong Kong's status as a special trading partner of the United States after China adopted a national security law for the region. Beijing says the law will restore peace and stability to Hong Kong after a year of violent protests.
Central China's Hubei province is offering free entry tickets to its nearly 400 A-level tourist sites until the end of 2020. An online booking platform was launched on the 8th of August. Visitors need to show their health QR codes and have their temperatures checked before entering the attractions. Every site is only allowed to operate at 50% of its maximum daily capacity. The scheme is only valid for domestic tourists. Construction of the Wencheng International Aerospace City is underway in South China's Hainan province. The park is home to the Wencheng Space Launch Site, the only coastal site of its kind in China, and from where the Long March 5 rocket blasted off on July 23, 2020, carrying China's Tianwen-1 Mars probe. China's National Immigration Administration will gradually resume issuing entry permits to the Macau Special Administrative Region to citizens of the Chinese mainland. South China's Guangdong province will resume releasing entry permits for Macau to citizens of its Qinghai city on Wednesday and to citizens in the rest of the province on the 26th of August. The authorities will resume releasing Macau entry permits to all citizens on the Chinese mainland on the 23rd of September if the situation in Macau continues to be suitable.
The immigration authorities say they'll resume issuing permits for Macau citizens to travel to the mainland. China's National Immigration Administration said its office in Guangdong province will begin releasing entry permits on a staggered basis. From Wednesday, citizens in Guangdong's Zhuhai city can be issued permits. The rest of Guangdong can apply from August 26th. If the situation remains stable, authorities will then release Macau entry permits to citizens in the rest of the Chinese mainland from September. And from August 12th, travellers from Macau with a COVID-19 negative test within 7 days will be allowed to enter the mainland without having to quarantine. Macau has not seen any new COVID-19 cases for more than 130 days.
Stay with us as we bring you more news on Asia Outlook. Russia has become the first country in the world to register a COVID-19 vaccine, local media reported, quoting President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday. However, critics have expressed concerns about its safety and efficacy. More than 100 vaccine candidates are being worked on around the world, and at least 4 of them have entered the final stage of human trials.
Russia has become the first country to approve a COVID-19 vaccine. President Vladimir Putin said one of his daughters had taken the vaccine and it was safe. Critics have expressed concern about its safety after less than 2 months of human testing. More than 100 vaccine candidates are being worked on around the world. At least 4 of them have entered their final stage of human trials.
Ancient rock paintings on Jialing Mountain in southwest China's Tibet Autonomous Region were first found in the 1980s. They lie on the Tibetan antelope's migration pathway and present a clear picture of the way humans and wild animals coexisted thousands of years ago. A traditional Tibetan horse racing festival named Dangjiran kicked off on the grasslands of the Damshun County in Lhasa City, southwest China's Tibet Autonomous Region on last Saturday, drawing tens of thousands of local herdsmen and tourists. The festival, listed as a state-level intangible cultural heritage in 2008, has a history of over 300 years. The festival has adopted live streaming for the first time this year to promote local agricultural products. August 9th marks the 75th anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of the Japan's southern city of Nagasaki in World War II.
Sunday marks the 75th anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of the Japanese city during the Second World War. You're watching live footage from Nagasaki. A ceremony is underway at the city's Peace Park. The mayor of the city is expected to appeal to the government to take more action toward realizing a world free of nuclear weapons. The event allows only about 500 guests. As you can see, it's not quite a large presence at this Peace Park in the city, roughly 1/10 the usual number in recent years, of course due to the coronavirus pandemic. The bomb killed 74,000 people in Nagasaki. It was the second nuclear bomb dropped by the United States, 3 days after the nuclear attack on Hiroshima, which left 140,000 people dead. Japan surrendered on August 15th in 1945, ending the Second World War and its nearly half-century of aggression and militarism in Asia.
Chinese President Xi Jinping on Tuesday signed a presidential order to award 4 people for their outstanding contribution in fighting the COVID-19 epidemic. Xi's presidential order came after the Standing Committee of the 13th National People's Congress voted at the 21st session to adopt a decision to confer the National Medal and honorary title on the 4 renowned specialists. Zhou Nanshan, a top respiratory expert who identified the SARS virus in 2003 and is currently leading the Chinese government's efforts in the fight against COVID-19, was awarded the Medal of the Republic. The national honorary title, the People's Hero, was conferred on Jian Bouli, a traditional Chinese medicine expert who presided over the research of the COVID-19 treatment scheme. China's opening up policy has served as a lifeline for Hainan's economy and a driver of the island province's rapid development over the past 3 decades. It is also the primary strategy for building a free trade zone and a free trade port. In the past 2 years, Hainan has been committed to taking opening up as a top priority. The resort island offers greater visa-free access and duty-free shopping for tourists and built an air transport network called 4-hour and 8-hour flight economic circle, as well as implemented a free trade account system. With the big push forward, an international tourism and consumption center, consumer goods have become the top commodity imported by Hainan in the past 2 years, with total imports shooting up 76.8% to reach 25.48 billion yuan. Singapore began destroying 9 tons of seized ivory Tuesday, the largest such action globally in recent years, including contraband tusks that came from more than 300 African elephants. The destruction by an industrial rock crusher was held on the eve of the World Elephant Day and aims to prevent the items from re-entering the market and disrupt the global supply chain of illegally traded ivory, Singapore's National Parks Board said. A spokeswoman for the board told AFP it would take 3 to 5 days for all of the ivory seized between 2014 and 2019 to be crushed, after which the fragments will be incinerated. We have more news coming up on Asia Outlook. Stick around. Masayuki Hirasuga, leader of the Popular Sovereignty Party of Japan, held a cluster music festival on the streets of Shibuya, Tokyo on the 9th of August, urging his supporters to attend the activities without masks. Hirasuga ran an unsuccessful campaign in the July Tokyo gubernatorial election. His campaign slogan, quote, "Coronavirus is just a cold," failed to gain traction with voters, but that doesn't mean he hasn't picked up followers who agree with his views, according to Japan Today. In a YouTube video uploaded to his channel a day before the protests, he called on his supporters to hold a rally without masks in front of the Shibuya station on the afternoon of the 9th of August. Russia has become the first country to approve a coronavirus vaccine, a move that has been met with skepticism due to the small sample on the vaccine was trialed on. Michael Head, Senior Research Fellow in Global Health at the University of Southampton, highlighted the vaccine's effectiveness and safety concerns. Dr. Amesh Adalja, a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins University's Center for Health Security, expresses concern that if something goes wrong with Russia's vaccine, it may undermine public confidence in any COVID-19 vaccine.
From what little has been released on it thus far, it appears as though the vaccine has only been tested on a few dozen people. So we're really at too early a stage to truly assess whether it's going to be effective, whether it's going to work or not. So there's 2 potential areas of concern. One is that the vaccine won't actually be very effective, and the other one is around safety. Both aspects are going to be hugely important, not just in terms of the vaccine itself, but in terms of the public confidence as to whether they want to accept the vaccine or not.
I thought that there was likely a danger in doing this before we know how safe and effective this vaccine is, because right now we're engaged in a global race to develop a vaccine as quick as possible. And we have to worry not only about making a safe and effective vaccine, but creating confidence in the public so that they desire to actually take this vaccine. And if something were to go wrong, that's going to set us all back. So we want to be very careful about how we do this. So if something happens in this Russian experience in terms of a new safety signal, or maybe it doesn't show to be as effective as possible, that's going to color all of the other vaccines and make the public health messaging much harder.
China's factory deflation eased in July, driven by a rise in global oil prices as industrial activity climbed back toward pre-coronavirus levels, adding to signs of recovery in the world's second-largest economy. The Producer Price Index (PPI) fell 2.4% from a year earlier in July, the National Bureau of Statistics said in a statement, compared with a 2.5% decline tipped in a Reuters poll of analysts and a 3.0% drop in June. Analysts say China's industrial output is steadily returning to levels seen before the pandemic, paralyzed huge swaths of the economy as pent-up demand, government stimulus, and surprisingly, resilient exports propelled a recovery. A double whammy of the pandemic and flooding has made ordinary Beijing consumers feel the pinch from rising food prices. Some are complaining prices are generally higher, especially for pork. Others say eggs cost more than before. Ten Ho New, an employee at the Hema supermarket in Beijing, said, quote, pork prices have been rising for 4 weeks in a row. It's almost doubling from last year. For example, this pork cost 84 yuan per half a kilo, unquote. China's consumer price index rose 2.7% in July from a year earlier. There was a slight uptick from a 2.5% gain in June. But the rise in food prices was more acute. Pork prices soared 85.7% year-on-year, while vegetables gained 7.9%. In contrast, core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, was at a 10-year low of 0.5%.
A double whammy of pandemic and flooding has made ordinary Beijing consumers feel the pinch from rising food prices.
Prices are generally higher, especially pork. Eggs are much more expensive. Vegetables also cost more.
China's consumer price index rose 2.7% in July from a year earlier. That was a slight uptick from a 2.5% gain in June. But the rise in food prices was more acute. Pork prices soared 85.7% year-on-year, while vegetables gained 7.9%. Core inflation was at a 10-year low of 0.5%.
Pork prices have been rising for 4 weeks in a row. It's almost doubling from last year. For example, this pork cost 84 yuan per half kilo.
However, analysts say the effects may not last long as temporary factors are fading.
After August, the heavy rainfall's impact on food prices will gradually subside.
Judging from the current pork production cycle, the pork prices will remain high in the third quarter, but the gains will be capped. In the fourth quarter, prices will be falling.
Meanwhile, China's PPI declined 2.4% in July, narrowing from a 3% drop in June. Analysts say the slowdown in factory deflation was mainly due to higher commodity and industrial product prices.
The recovery in demand is the main driver of higher industrial product prices, as China's industrial production has recovered fast.
However, analysts also say China's inflationary pressure will soften toward year's end, as still sluggish household demand will pressure CPI, while PPI is likely to remain in negative territory due to uncertainties over COVID-19 and China-US tensions. Guanxin, CGTN.
A special event was held in Southwest on last Wednesday to mark the annual World Elephant Day, on occasion aiming to bring attention to the urgent plight of Asian and African elephants. And that's all we have for today's Asia Outlook on MI Radio. Thank you for being with us. I'm Aga Zhou. We'll be back next week. Until next time.